Welcome to Esther's Universe. It's a magical place full of courage, creativity, and joy. It's where anything is possible as science and woo-woo come together to teach you how to step into your power and raise your vibration so together we can heal the collective and make a positive impact on the world. If you love the pod, please share it and enjoy.
Sweet.
Yeah, on the spot.
Hi. All right. Do you want to tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Jordan. I'm a breathwork and wellness practitioner. So really diving into how the breath and different aspects of health affect our well-being and how we basically feel day to day and the quality of life that we live. Cool. And really my job is to just help guide people to what their body and their souls already know.
That's nice.
So, yeah.
That's really, really nice. I don't know anything much about it, but I feel like the breath is like the secret to like being able to master your own life in like every way. But I don't know. Is that right?
Yeah, it definitely has a big role to play. I think of the breath as the root of our personal power and our ability to support ourselves, both from a systematic standpoint, so how our nervous system, digestion, our thoughts are all supported, but also from a movement and posture standpoint, our breath is our stability. It's our core. Cool. So, yeah, when it comes to kind of what you shared there around like it's kind of the bedrock of who we are. It's really this like deeper connection to what we hold within us.
Cool.
And what I find really fascinating is that there's more space in the body than there is matter. And so with the breath, it's like this...
That's very interesting because we're just vibrating, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And sorry, that took me a second. I was like ticking over what you just said.
But it's like the potential for you to explore that space becomes your infinite, basically, journey as a human. It's like, where does the breath go and how can it share with you experiences from your internal world externally?
Cool.
So what I mean by that is, for example, if someone lacks the ability to expand their breath on the right side, or they've had an experience where the right side of their body might be more blocked from, say, trauma or something in their life, by getting the breath in there, there's potential to release that and create more space for them to, either explore their masculine energy in a new way or to feel empowered to take action.
Cool.
So it's a really, really cool way to explore the body.
How could people explore their masculine energy in a new way? Do you know a lot about that?
Yeah.
Are we going way off topic?
No. Yeah,
cool.
Totally, yeah. I was just taking people through a breathwork last night where we were exploring the four planes of the body. So masculine on the right side, feminine on the left, giving in the front and receiving in the back. Oh. And so exploring your planes of energetic senses or energy in the different planes was really cool. So to answer your question, does the breath give you more power and clarity of the actions that you're going to take? So the doing energy.
Cool.
So, it might be something that is scaring you.
Yeah.
And, let's take an example of jumping out of the plane. It's like, oh, this really is scaring me. But it's like a few deep breaths and some calming words and some inner calm. You're able to take the action and do the thing.
Sick.
Right? But if you were not able to do that, or that was something that really scared you and was hard to do, and maybe you weren't able to connect to the breath, then maybe you don't do that. So it's this inner power that you're cultivating.
So it's kind of like a compass too.
Yeah, it is. Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So
can you say anything about the feminine energy with
that? Well, feminine energy is our being energy, or the space that we sit in. And so again, the breath is, like meditation or mindfulness, the breath is the gateway to relaxing into that and being able to soften the racing thoughts, or soften how the mind is being in that present moment, and really help you focus on the presence of the breath.
That's amazing.
So by being in the breath, you're being in more that feminine energy to a degree. There's obviously sides to the breath that you might have experienced something that really like energizes you and brings you into a more sympathetic state, or a breath that really brings you back into the parasympathetic or that calmer piece of mind.
Cool.
That's what I feel is more the feminine kind of trait of the breath.
How do people use, when you go into an ice bath or whatever, I just go into the one down at RMC. So there's not anyone there like telling me what to do. I just like get in and stay there until the timer goes off.
Yeah.
But what breathing, how do you make your breath warm you up? Or like, what do you do? Are you meant to be like more calm then?
Yeah.
Or what am I meant to be doing in that scenario?
Yeah. No, great question. And I actually work at
Can I sit on the floor?
Yeah, of course. I work at a bathhouse and a gym in Kirra.
Okay.
And so a big part of our philosophy is helping people understand and educate themselves and be guided into using something like an ice bath or a sauna in a way that's supportive of getting the most out of it. So I love this question.
I'm so excited. I want to know all of this so much.
Yeah. So there's a few things that I share with people when it comes to an ice bath. One is that it's a stressor. So think of it like no different to road rage or an email or something like that, but it's a controlled environment, so you know that you're getting into it. So to prepare yourself for that, it's important to really take the mental piece of like, this is what I'm getting into. I know that I'm getting into something that's cold, and understanding what it's going to do to you. So an ice bath will bring your breath and all of your energy into the top of the body and into the vital organs, so lungs, heart, to keep you alive. So how we get into the ice bath is the first step. Is when we inhale, we increase our heart rate. When we exhale, we decrease our heart rate. So as you get into the ice bath, the ice and the cold is going to increase your heart rate. So how can we take the first step in relaxing the body? By exhaling down and getting into it. Cool. So exhale down, you create a nice calm response to getting in. And then the first 30 seconds to a minute, depending on who you are and where you're at, is all about getting or building an adaptation to the response of the cold. So you probably felt like every part of your body wants you to get the fuck out. And you're like, oh, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And so that part is really key to helping your body overcome the stressor of the cold. And so really the first 30 seconds is really just about connecting to the breath, just becoming aware of it and starting to get into a rhythm. And it's through that you can then start to take the next step of relaxing into it. And how you become more effortless and relax into the stressor will not only help you make the ice bath experience easier, but when you come into a stressful situation, your body starts to remember that. It's like, I know where to go.
That's amazing.
Right? And that's what we're training. That's the benefit of these.
I honestly had no idea why I was doing it. I just knew it was good for me, so I started.
Yeah, cool.
Didn't even Google it.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of, I think, not the trend, but where people are gravitating towards the ices. Like, it makes them feel good. Yeah. And there's a beautiful reason for that. But I think to take it the next step further is to understand how to get the most out of it and what it's helping you do beyond just the cold.
Yeah.
And so one of the big benefits is that adaptation of how can I overcome a stress and how do I handle and come into what I can control, which is the breath, which is relaxing the muscles, which is trying to find your center, essentially.
Yeah. You know who should do this, ice baths, apart from literally everyone? People who are super self-aware.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you're a really self-aware person, you are more likely to over-intellectualize rather than get into your body.
Yeah, 100%.
And there's so many people who message me all the time, like looking for help in situations. And honestly, so much of it is just that they're so aware already, but they don't know how to process it, move past it.
Yeah.
And I just keep telling people at the moment, just like get into your body and I'll suggest a few different ways, but when you were saying that then, I was like,
Yeah,
that would
totally.
be such a good way to learn to just get in there.
100%. And it's such a good way to connect to the breath because your body's literally going into a fight or flight response. And so you have the option of getting out or trying to just hone in on what you can control. And if you try and think your way through it, it's so difficult. But breathing your way through it gives you this sense of like an inner power, an empowerment that you can work your way through something.
Yeah.
We had a group of, and this happens a lot, but a group of 30 women in the bathhouse the other weekend, and we were taking them through, and I was like, all right, the goal is 2 minutes in the cold pool, and a lot of them were really apprehensive about that, but open to it. And the first time I just took them in, got them to feel how they felt, the response. Second time we went a little bit further. And the third time I just guided them into the breath, and instead of 2 minutes, I was like, let's just work to 12 breaths, just 12 breaths. That's all I want you to focus on. And at the end of the 12 breaths, everyone was like, oh, that went so quick. But it was this deep presence with themselves that was really about focusing on what is in my control. Don't worry about the time or the cold or what everyone else is doing. What can I control? And it was through that they were able to overcome that so much more effortlessly and not focus on the need for it to be time or whatever else. It was just what is in their power.
That's really
and
nice.
Yeah, just the smiles and the I guess the empowerment that came from that was really cool to see.
Yeah.
So
isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
when
so
people like
cool.
expand their comfort zone like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's so energizing.
It is, and for them to, I guess, walk out feeling confident too is, how do they then take that into the next part of the day or the next day when something challenges them? That's where I love how the cold can be this ripple effect into your life, because it's not just that moment. It has such a carry-on effect. I don't know if you've felt that or experienced that in
I'd
ways.
say so. Like, I don't know, whenever I started going like once a week, and I've noticed that the dread is like lowering. Like I'm starting to feel excited about getting back in
Yep.
because of how good it makes me feel afterwards.
Cool.
And it's really good. I don't know, I haven't observed myself in that sense of like, have I felt overall like more calm and in control or
Yep.
whatever. But I'm going to say yes, because I used to be like really highly strung and stressed all the time. And just in general, implementing more of like a holistic approach to living has been so grounding. So, yeah, but I will observe that more.
Yeah. See what that feels like.
Yeah.
Because it brings you to that heightened state, your new equilibrium starts to shift in terms of how relaxed you can start to become. Something that I talk about with clients is your ability to go to 100 is really based on your ability to go to 0. If you can only go down to 30% in terms of like relaxing and dropping into a more parasympathetic nervous system, then you can only truly go to 70% of your maximum capacity.
That's so interesting. I never thought about it like that. That's wild.
So, for people who are highly strung and feel like they're at 100 all the time, your longevity and your ability to sustain that is going to be jeopardized because you can't.
You know what? Sorry, I interrupted.
No,
I'm
yeah.
excited. But I felt like I was at 100 all the time. But now that I'm living in a way where I'm like, everything is just in alignment and I'm just living based on my own energy and like what works for me and what drives me and everything. And before, my goals were all just like, I need money, a home. Like it was all just like really security-based stuff. And I felt like I was going at 100, but I was probably only going at like, I don't know, 40.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
It just felt really hard
Yeah.
because the energy was being used like so incorrectly. And I could not even dream of meditating back then. Like, oh my God, just getting myself to sit down was really hard. So it was when I like stopped everything. Like I just fucking quit my business, reeled my entire life backwards and was just like, no, I'm just going to stop, hit the brakes.
Hit that 0.
Literally, came to 0, like, started meditating, did everything I could to just get myself to be able to be.
Mm.
And then now that I'm using my energy with so much intention and care for it, like it's my ultimate priority, I'm doing so much more and extending so much less energy expending. Sorry,
Yeah.
like it's crazy. Everything feels so easy. Like I've never done more and also been so balanced and had so much rest.
Yeah, wow.
It's
so cool.
crazy.
Yeah.
So when you said that whole thing about like 0 and 100, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. And it's also understanding what needs to be, what do I need to do at 100 and what do I need to do at 40% or 50%?
Yeah.
Like, do I wash the dishes at 100%? And does that really need to happen? Because that's just a waste of energy, right?
Yeah.
And really, yeah, as you shared, like, what's the thing that I need to do this week that needs 100% of my energy? And what are the other things that don't need 100% but need a considered? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's coming into this idea of how effortless you can be with things, because it's not about taxing yourself and you know, not saying hard work is not good, but it's not about doing hard work all the time. Or
I
even
honestly can't even. I'm getting the biggest ick from the word term. Sorry, hard work. It's just humans are so everyone's in such a black and white way of thinking. And when you say to someone like, you know, it takes hard work, that if applied in the wrong context can just burn someone out. Like someone will be like, oh, okay, to achieve my dreams, I have to work really hard, and they'll just send themselves and not even get all the way where they want to go. And if they do, they fucking didn't have time for life and friends and family. And so they got there, but then they feel isolated. And it's like they weren't actually meant to work hard. They were probably meant to find balance in what they were doing. And it's probably more like the dedication and the commitment to the thing and the consistency that needs to be focused on, less than like the hard work. Anyway, that was a completely off topic thing.
No.
But I've been wanting to talk to people about that term for ages.
Yeah, totally. And it's the consistency over intensity, like narrative, like how the person who does something for 365 days of the year at a consistent effort versus the person who does something 100 days of the year at 100% intensity. The person who does that consistent effort for the whole year is always going to trump. But it's I guess shifting the mindset to like the cliche quote of like Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was built every day.
Yeah.
And it's this like continual building of things.
Yeah.
And I feel like that can apply to every aspect of life.
Fully.
Yeah.
Oh man. What are some other amazing things that you do with so have you got your own business and then you also work at the other place, or are you doing all of what you do?
No, I'm doing all of what I do at Native State at the moment, and working in group classes, workshops, and then one-on-one clients. So a mix of all of those. Yeah.
What are the other bits and bobs that you do in there? Like, so you've got the ice bath.
Yeah, we've got the sauna, infrared sauna, hot pool, and steam room. That's downstairs, and then upstairs we have a studio gym where we take clients and classes up there.
Cool. What's your favourite bit, like when you're doing the upstairs stuff and you're talking people through it? Like, what if you're like, oh my God, if I could just inject this knowledge into everyone so they can fully embody it? Like, what's your?
I think that it's a continual practice, and that the more you show up and keep showing up, the more you're going to get from it. It's in the showing up and the practice you'll start to feel those shifts. So I think for me it's just a continual like encouragement of people coming and doing it for themselves, and
That's nice.
and just being there for themselves, not for anyone else, not for the looks or whatever. We're really big on, you know, how do you shift your state and come into how you feel, and really being aware of how you feel and the intricacies of yourself,
really nice.
because we can get caught up in the superficial parts of life or body image or how we look, but it really comes back to like, if you feel good, it doesn't matter what's on the outside, because it'll just radiate. And so being able to see those little shifts and people that have been on the journey for, whether it's a few weeks or a few months or a few years, it's really beautiful to see those little steps and just to be a part of that and to kind of witness that. So
that's really nice.
Yeah.
And so important. There's so much focus on aesthetics, hey? And also, I think everyone's got like a really bad case of people pleasing.
Yeah.
So we're just so used to doing things because we're expected to, or like I should, or I don't want to upset this person, or just operating from a place outside of ourselves. It's wild. So I think that's really, really nice that you have such a focus on helping people just come back home to themselves.
Yeah.
And do it for yourself.
And to have a balance of like the finite goal and the infinite goal, and it's this balance of the infinite goal is whether that's presence with yourself or this journey that never ends, whereas sometimes we can have a lot of finite goals that we feel we get to and then we just want to create the next one and then the next one and then the next one, or we feel like we're constantly kind of working towards this number or this thing that is there, but the balance and the emergence of having those two is really helpful to ground you in the long journey that life is, or that the soul kind of takes.
Can you talk more about it?
Yeah.
So the infinite and the finite.
Yeah. So finite is I want to run 10 kilometers. Infinite is I just want to be the best runner that I can be. Cool. I can never reach that best runner, but I can always work towards it.
Yeah.
And I feel that the more we have the balance of, working towards that goal of running 10 kilometers, maybe in the fastest we've ever done, but then grounding ourselves or bringing ourselves back down into like, all right, every day is just about having the best run that I can. And so it's this journey of not being too focused on one and getting fixated on the number, but it's also not getting too lost in the infinite, because that can also happen, right? If I just want to be present with myself, then where's the goal that grounds that in the finite, and where's vice versa? If I just want to be run the fastest, where's the goal that can ground us in the infinite?
Do you know what this makes me think of? It makes me think of balancing, like being a human on Earth and also a energetic being in the universe.
Totally, yeah.
And it makes me think of how, like, if people go, if they're too in their body, not in their body, if they're too like in just their human 3D existence and they're not in themselves enough, in their like infinite self, then obviously you can like lose a connection to yourself.
Yeah.
And if you go into like, way too into your spiritual side and you don't live properly on your sort of human life, and you just spend most of the time like alone and in your head, and that's also not healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
So it just makes me think of balancing both. It also makes me think of the creative process. So like when people have something creative that they want to do, they'll usually have a goal of what they want it to look like at the end or whatever. And then, they'll learn along the way throughout the process that sometimes it's not going to look like that. And instead of just being like, it sucks, I suck, couldn't do it, failed the goal, never going to create again. Like, I think it's about sort of letting go of the tight grip on that and balancing both of those things. Like, here's the goal so that you start the thing, but then also just enjoy where you're going throughout. Yeah. That's different, but it made me think of all those things. Yeah,
totally. No, I can see what you mean. And it's also, say you were setting yourself up for a goal. How do you think of the two goals so that when you get to those moments, you can come back to the infinite goal? Hey, this process is really just about me understanding myself better, or me becoming the best creative I can be. And that's, I've found, to help me through challenges, because I can get out of the egoic mind that wants the thing. And it's really coming back into how am I just starting to build my soul's character even more.
That's so nice.
Right? Yeah.
I love that.
And so, if we look at it like the ego and the soul in a way, it's important to have both, because without the ego, the soul won't take the action, or it won't have that finite like physical experience. And so it's nice to think of the ego and the soul they're kind of two sides of the coin. They have to be friends, right? But for one to serve the other and the other to serve the other as well, not ego is just not a thing. I can't have an ego. It's like we need an ego, right?
Stop. I love this.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this conversation for so long. I can't stand the term ego death.
Yeah.
Just because people take it very seriously and they lean on it and go, I've had an ego death. I no longer need to work on my ego and I don't have an ego anymore, which is not the case at all. And I feel like that limits people, and just they kind of just like hang it on the shelf. They're like, cool, I had an ego death, done. And then they'll like, it will come back. It's something you need to learn the language of your ego.
Totally.
And realize that it's actually your friend. It's just like you need to keep it in check. You need to understand it, and like it's a lifelong relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of all of the most successful people have had to have an ego that has had to carry them beyond what people maybe have said is possible, or if Steve Jobs didn't have such a charismatic ego, would have he got to where he got to? Most likely not, right? And so it's so important to have that balance and understand how they serve each other.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that. Can you talk more about the balance of how they serve each other?
Yeah. Well, I guess think of, coming back to the doing and the being. The soul is that being energy. It's what is infinitely inside of you. It's infinitely your spirit or who you are. And it's like the ego is the doing or the action part, and it's like the soul is gifting the ego what it needs to then take action on.
Cool.
Right? And so the ego becomes this part of us that is helping us drive the next step, because the soul is not there to do that. It's there to kind of be the conduit from the universe or the energies around us, and to bring it in. And it's like the ego is the driving nature of that.
Cool. So it feels very like masculine, feminine.
Yeah.
Man,
And to have that balance is finding ways to act upon what your soul is bringing you, and not getting too lost in only taking action, not getting too lost in just in the being energy and dreaming. And I was only just writing this morning, and it's like, if you dream big, you have to act bigger. You have to take bigger actions on that, because
that's so true.
We can all dream, and that's such a beautiful skill, and imagination is so needed, and I think we need more of it. But as long as it's matched with the action.
Yeah, otherwise it can turn into illusion.
Yeah, and you can lose yourself in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
this is so interesting. I love this so much. I think about this stuff all the time. So, yeah, I think an important thing there as well is when you are, so let's just say for me, I've got really big dreams and I try and take action, but I'm such an action-based person that I need to make sure that I don't like just drive myself like off a cliff, like a freight train, So I've got to make sure the action that I take is like super aligned with how I'm feeling. And so I always bring it back to like my energy and like what energy, like I know I have big energy. I know that I have the capacity to do all the things that I want to do. And I am moving towards all of that stuff. But it's like, if I feel like I have so much energy to do a whole lot, like I'll action a bunch when I have that big energy, when it's like really available to me.
Yeah.
But even then I don't want to like use literally all of it, right? So I always make sure that there's some energy left, and I don't let myself go overboard, and I always just take aligned action as if I'm like on the phone to the universe or something. It's like my higher self is so connected, just being like, right, do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I'm doing all that. But like, would you say that, so I always try and describe this to people as like, listen to your energy, learn your energy, understand your energy.
Yep.
But I feel like there's a piece here that I don't have yet, where it has something to do with the breath, where you could, do you know what I'm saying? Is anything coming to your head right now?
like using the breath as a bit of a vehicle to
understand
support
it
that.
better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, and I think it comes back to like your nervous system too. There's a really beautiful Chinese proverb that says, tension is who you think you should be, and relaxation is who you are.
Tension is who you think you should be, and relaxation is who you are.
So as you sit with that, it's like the more, coming back to the energy in the nervous system, the more hyped up and driven from a nervous system standpoint you are, and the potential for that tension to build, you start to over time lose that part of you that is maybe coming from the effortless or the soul filled place.
That is what I worry about.
Yeah, and so it's taking the breaks of, where do I relax? Where do I get out into nature? Where do I find those 0 points in my day or in my week or my year to really help me recalibrate the direction or where the 100 can go?
Cool.
Right? And so the nervous system is such a thing to be attuned to, because it's so beautiful to have that drive and follow that till the cows come home, but knowing, all right, when is it time to come into that state of like switch off, or come into the state of relaxation, to just journey back into like, all right, who am I, and where is it that I want to take things?
That's nice.
Yeah, and find that 0 point to just ground you back in that journey.
Yeah.
Because as you said, it's like being able to enjoy that process, not feel like you have to do everything all day.
Yeah.
And to find those points. And maybe that's a sprint for some people. Maybe that's a block of 2 months or 3 months.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's a day or two, and then you have a day off, right? I think that really comes back to what are your energetic needs, and how do you start to balance your yin and your yang each day. And that can simply mean, a minute or two of breath work every hour that just brings you back into a bit of a focus and intentional state, recalibrate and come back, right?
I like that.
And just having these little reminders, or using, I like to think of how do you stack your habits. So like, say I'm about to have lunch, it's like, all right, could I use lunch as a chance to breathe for a minute, really enjoy my food, take in, have a switch off, and then maybe after that it's a little bit of movement or something that you're already doing, but it's just kind of like bookending that habit with some new habits that are going to be supportive of you coming back to zero, or coming back into the body, or just recalibrating where the energy is then best served next.
I love that.
Yeah.
That seems like such an easy thing that people can just start doing.
Yeah, and you can
That's
build
incredible.
on something you're already doing too.
Yeah. And people are already doing stuff like, setting alarms, and I don't do that, but, there's heaps of people that will set like time blocks,
Yeah.
and you could even have like a little label come up being like, just breathe or whatever.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you start your time block or whatever
Yeah.
with your breath.
And just
That's so
trying
cool.
to find that center point again. Super, super powerful.
Sweet.
And something I try and do that with my clients is like starting in that relaxed state and finishing in that relaxed state, so that you're kind of like a bell curve, and that you're starting low, coming up high, and always finishing in a state where you're
That's nice.
ready for the next.
It's like when you go to yoga.
Yeah.
And they start you slow, and then you do the thing, and then you end slow.
And slow. Yeah.
Cool.
Because your nervous system needs that point of relaxation to.
What can you tell people about the nervous system?
So I think
From like your perspective.
yeah,
anyway.
I think from the best way to kind of help people understand is we've got two branches, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic.
And this parasympathetic is a rest and digest.
Rest and digest, fight or flight is the sympathetic. Think of if you're in overdrive and you're stuck in the sympathetic state, you're going to potentially run into things like digestive issues, run into burnout, run into mental fogginess and fatigue, even run into things like mental constipation, because your mind is just so full of thoughts, and because there's a lack of flow around the body, it just sticks in the head because the body's just trying to preserve this energy. You're also going to be in a more of a reactive state. When you're in the parasympathetic, think of this as you're able to digest your food better, you're able to fall asleep a lot easier, you're able to have more free flow of thoughts and more openness. You've got more expansive perspective versus like a tunnel vision. A sympathetic perspective is very, the tiger's coming at me, I need to get away from that tiger. And so being able to just start to distinguish that is really helpful. And knowing where you're at is really supportive. And the way that I would say tune into where you're at is understanding how is your digestion. How does that feel? Is it blocked or does it feel in good rhythm? Is one way. What are you thinking? Like, are you racing thoughts? And are you feeling like you're constantly kind of overthinking? That means you're probably in a sympathetic state. The speed of your breath, if that is more than 5 or 6 breaths per minute, then you're in more of a sympathetic state.
More than 5 or 6 breaths a minute is, wow, I feel like I take 1,000,000 breaths a minute.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So
you take 6 breaths a minute.
That's the goal. Yeah.
Oh my God,
which is about a 4 in, 6 out count. Okay, so come in for 4, out for 6, or in for 5, out for 6, roughly.
Sweet.
And try doing that for a minute and feel the difference. And that is your equilibrium. That is your point where your nervous system starts to balance at about 5.5 to 6 breaths per minute. Sweet. If you feel that and register that and mentally go, yep, this is what that feels like, and it might take you longer than a minute to get back there, depending on where you're at. Mm-hmm. If you can feel that, that's your reference point to move forward with. This is how a more balanced nervous system feels.
Okay. Holy.
Yeah.
5 to 6 breaths a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on that.
Yeah, explore it.
That's right. How do you breathe and talk? So my friend Sonia and I were talking about this, and I was practicing it. I was recording a podcast episode yesterday.
Yeah.
And I told everyone listening that I was setting the intention to be able to practice because sorry, I'm starting 3 different sentences at a time. I listen to this chick on her pod, and when she speaks, I can hear her speaking. Yeah. She's so calm, so grounded, sounds beautiful, and then she stops and goes, I can hear her taking a breath in through her nose, and then she just continues talking. But I think it happens at a comfortable pace for her.
Yeah.
And so when I was trying this yesterday, because I'm sick of hearing it, I'll be listening to myself being blah, 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 and I'm fucking hyperventilating basically. Why am I doing this? Calm down. And then, I don't know, I was trying it, and I was noticing that it's probably got a lot to do with my pace as well. I speak so quickly and try and get too many words out in one breath. Yeah. And then have to gasp air in to keep going. But yeah, I was talking to my friend Sonia about it, and she was honestly, same. She's I'm sick of it. She was there's got to be a better way to talk and breathe. And we couldn't figure out how. So do you know anything about that?
I would say it comes from a few angles. It's definitely pace and pausing and finding the space there, but also where the words are coming from. So we have a really powerful muscle here that's our main breathing muscle called the diaphragm, which you've probably heard of. Mm. And if this muscle is able to drop and create space in the lungs and really start to support our intake of air and exhale of air, then think of it as the ability to have a more of a capacity to talk for longer, sing for longer, use your vocal cords for longer, because you're not running out of air. And so, this is why singers can hold such high notes, is because when they're able to drop their diaphragm down into their lower lobes of their belly and their back and their abdomen wall, they start to create a bigger vacuum where there's just more space to speak more, essentially. So really getting to connect the diaphragm and feeling how that is helping you breathe more than the nose or the mouth.
Okay.
Okay, so what I mean by that is think of the diaphragm as your primary breathing muscle, like you would the bicep. And let's say you were going to do a bicep curl in the gym. If you were to do a bicep curl with your wrists, it wouldn't be very strong. Mm-hmm. But if you were to do a bicep curl with your bicep, it's obviously going to be a lot stronger.
Yeah.
Same goes for your nose and your diaphragm. If you're only using your nose to breathe in, then it's like using your wrist for a bicep curl, right? Because your nose is not a muscle, it's a passageway or it's an airway. The diaphragm is the muscle that when it drops, it allows air to come in through the nose and down into the lungs. And think of the diaphragm dropping as like the ability for your lungs to expand. And as the diaphragm contracts, it's the ability for your lungs to contract. Because the lungs are just tissue and, it's not a working muscle as such. The diaphragm is what helps the lungs and the organs contract. Ooh. Okay, and so when it comes to what I love to teach people is how to functionally breathe using the diaphragm. It's really important to breathe through the nose, but use the diaphragm.
How do you use it?
Yeah,
Where do you put your awearness? Like,
yes.
What does my head need to do to wrap it around this?
Let's do this so you can experience this.
Right now?
Right, yeah, right now. Yeah. So what we're going to do is the diaphragm acts independently of the breath, but it also acts in harmony with the breath. Okay, so what I mean by that is I can use the diaphragm to breathe in and breathe out, but I can also just move the diaphragm up and down independently. Okay, so what
What muscles are you doing that with?
The diaphragm.
Okay.
So, and let's feel it first. So bring your fingers to your ribs,
yep.
And then drop under your ribs like it's a cliff,
yep.
And start to palpate that muscle. And then I want you to push into your fingers. Cool. That's your diaphragm, right? You can feel that muscle?
Yes.
Cool. So now let's take that the next step further.
Oh, so these are just my abs.
Yeah, no, so there's your superficial abs sits on the outside. Your deeper core is your diaphragm.
Slay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so this is where we come back to like the very first part of the depth of the breath comes into it's at the depth of who you are. It's not the superficial layer, it's the depth of who you are. And so how do we start to use this independently? Well, we're going to hold the breath, and I want you to move the diaphragm up and down like an elevator. Okay, so let's inhale, exhale, pinch the nose, move the diaphragm up and down. Good. And as you're doing this, just go till you feel the urge to breathe. As you're doing this, you're massaging the organs, you're creating more blood flow, more nutrient flow within the whole center of your body. And you're also teaching the brain and the body to now use the diaphragm independently of the breath. Okay? So now as you come into the breath, I want you to drop the diaphragm. Air will start to come in through the nose. Air will start to come out through the nose as the diaphragm contracts. It's very subtle, but this is starting to bring you into what we call an effortless breath, where I'm not trying to breathe, my diaphragm drops and I'm just breathing. My diaphragm contracts and I'm just exhaling. And this is where you might have seen on what I shared with Shannon is where a tree doesn't try to grow, it just grows. A human shouldn't have to tirelessly and breathe it so effortful. Should be effortless with the diaphragm.
That would be so nice. I was thinking about this yesterday because I was meditating, and I'll be focusing on my breath for ages, and then I feel myself just like float off into the middle of space. Mm-hmm. And when I do that, I feel like I stop breathing basically. Like it's like becomes the most shallow breath, and I'm like, how am I even fucking alive? And it's not like racing. It's still slow, but it's tiny. But then if I bring myself back into my body for a moment to be like, okay, breathe properly, Esther, and I'll be breathing or whatever, but then I'm like, oh, now it feels like heaps of effort to breathe after that. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, is that normal? And how do I make it effortless? But this is going to help. Yeah,
the diaphragm.
Cool.
Diaphragm. And the deeper you connect with that muscle, the more inner power that you'll start to really hone in for yourself. because it's such a stabilizing but also a supportive muscle of every system in the body.
Cool.
The breath affects every single thing in the body. Without the breath, within 2 to 3 minutes, where are we? We're passed out or dead. Food and water, 7 days for water, 40 days for food, roughly. So the quality of our breath really is important when it comes to the quality of our life.
Yeah. Would you say that, like, if the breath and the nervous system are obviously related.
Mm-hmm.
If you're breathing nice and calm and properly, you would be telling your body that you're safe, obviously.
Yeah.
And if your body knows that it's safe, your brain, all of that, then it's easier to step into like a feminine energy and go into a place of being able to meditate and all of that.
Totally.
So that's why that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's why breath is almost the first gateway to meditation. Just coming into the presence of it.
Stop your brain from flying around everywhere and just to focus on it.
Well, partly that, but that's, meditation, you can think of that as just you're focusing in on something. You're bringing your inner attention to something. You can also do meditations where you're just observing, but there's also the meditation of like focusing in on one thing. Maybe it's a question, maybe it's the breath, maybe it's a challenge in your life, and really using your internal world and the connection that you have to source or the universe to really channel in what that next step or what that being energy is. So,
oh my God, seriously.
Yeah.
So many people message me lately as well, being like, how do I know my next step? And like, I don't know where to go. I'm feeling stuck. Don't know how to move forward.
Yeah.
And I just keep telling them, because like my version of the breath is creativity. For you, I mean, I know they're different, but I mean, like, it's my thing. It's like I use creativity in such a spiritual way. And I always say to people, like, you need to create space inside your mind and inside yourself so that you can allow things to come through. Like the knowledge and the wisdom and everything that you want that's right for you can't be told to you by me. Like, I can tell you how to get to that place, but that's as far as I can take you. You know, you have to be able to actually sit down with yourself and create the space and allow all that to come through. And I always find that creativity is a really good way to do that, because you are going into a state of flow.
Yeah.
And you're also just embracing being in the moment and being in the process and not looking ahead for the end result or trying to figure out things too much. You're just in a place of, like, I don't know, exploration and flow. And I always find that things just come through for me when I'm creating. And because I do that, I find it so much easier to sit down with myself now, like now that I've slowed everything else down. But yeah, it feels like the breath would be like another option for people who aren't like inclined to be super creative or whatever. They can just focus on allowing that space there.
Yeah, and creating more space with it and kind of building on that. And what I was sharing before is a lot of people commonly will breathe into their belly as like their deeper breath. And if you think of the front of the body as our giving energy, and people can be really good at giving their energy and people pleasing or serving others. But where I see a lot of opportunity and growth for myself and people that I coach and people that I'm around is coming into that receiving energy. And that for your breath is trying to direct the breath instead of into the front in the belly, it's actually coming into the back and breathing into your back, because your back is where you're receiving energy from.
Can you help guide my brain around that?
Yeah. So if the front of our body, how we give in energy is what we give, then coming back into the body and breathing into the back, like literally breathing into the back, is going to help you start to come into the more receiving energy of yourself.
Cool.
Right? And through that, there's a higher potential of exactly what you shared, receiving the next step or receiving an answer or asking a question.
Cool.
And so using the breath as this gateway to helping you actually step into the energy that you want to step into, right? If I want to step into my masculine, hey, explore the breath in the right side. Just spend 5 minutes breathing into your right side.
So for people listening, when you say that, you just mean like your consciousness, like you're breathing, like you breathe in or whatever,
Yep.
and you're breathing out, and you've got your consciousness like focused on that part of your
Correct.
body.
Yeah. I like to think of 4 quadrants. You got front left, front right, back left.
Cool.
And so think of front right as your giving and masculine energy, your back right as your receiving and masculine energy, front left giving feminine, back left giving receiving and feminine. Cool. And so just explore those quadrants. And maybe it's you breathe into just one specific one. Maybe you explore each 4 of those at once or at different times. And kind of start to create this deeper sense of breath and explore the consciousness held within you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to try that.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I need to go back to the diaphragm.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, yeah.
So you were saying breathe, when you're breathing in,
Yep.
your
Diaphragm is dropping. Yep. So because
do you mean just like relaxing it?
it's kind of, it's over time it will become more effortless, but for the start it's like you're pushing it down with like an elevator. Okay, and then as you let it go and relax it, it'll come back up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sweet. I just had to connect that better.
And so think of when the diaphragm drops, if this is my lungs here, my diaphragm's here. As my diaphragm drops, my lungs can expand. If they expand, more air can come into them. As my diaphragm relaxes and contracts, the lungs start to become smaller, air comes out. Cool. Just as a natural vacuum. And our nose or our mouth is the passageway in which that comes out.
Sweet.
Versus trying to be so forceful through the nose or the mouth. Yeah. And there's a beautiful movement of people breathing through the nose, and that is so amazing. But the next step is to really use the diaphragm.
I forgot why we even did the diaphragm thing, because of the talking and breathing.
Yes, exactly.
So be able to get like more out of each breath.
Exactly.
Instead of just being like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and think of, dropping the diaphragm as just the ability to have more space to kind of talk. Cool. And more control over how you breathe. And because you can now feel the diaphragm acting independently of the breath, so you might feel out of breath, but I'm actually breathing with my diaphragm. And so I might be talking, but I'm still breathing, right? You don't maybe hear me breathing, but I'm breathing because my diaphragm drops and contracts.
Whoa.
Because the air just my nose is a passageway.
Oh, stop
right?
it.
I'm not trying to breathe. I'm just breathing.
Okay. I feel like you just told me a secret that
It is.
I've always wanted to know.
Yeah, it's kind of like an untapped secret to be honest. Like it holds so much power in making your energy so much more effortless.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
Like even now, if I'm just like pushing it up and down, well, not when I'm talking, but just then when you were talking, I was just feeling like I could feel the air moving through my nostrils.
Cool.
Not a lot.
Yeah,
but it was a bit.
Try this. Just put your finger there, not try and breathe, and now just drop the diaphragm and contract it. It'll be super subtle.
Yeah, it is. It's really subtle, but I can feel it. Does it get stronger in time?
Yeah, no, it's more subtle in time, because the masters of breathing, you don't know that they're breathing at all.
That's cool.
You see a Tai Chi master, you don't see their belly move at all. What? Yeah, because it's so effortless. Because there's so much space for it to go that it doesn't need to go out of the body. It's just so effortless, right? And it's this process that, as a baby, if you watch a baby, they'll breathe so effortlessly. The diaphragm is dropped. They're just like really filled out in this space because they're just uninhabited by the experiences of life. They haven't experienced those.
Yeah, fresh.
Yeah, fresh.
Freshies.
And so this is the power of a lot of the work that we do is coming back to an infant's development, and from a 0 to kind of 14 months, a baby will go through certain phases of learning how to crawl, walk, run, breathe, move different muscles. And so we come back to what are those phases that as adults we've kind of either missed or we've got glitches in our system, because we all have this infant development blueprint that we have all experienced. And by going back to there, we can start to reprogram how we are as adults. And the breath is just the foundation of all of that.
Cool.
Without the breath, you don't have a solid base to move, to find balance, and to find a sense of inner power too. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That is honestly mind-blowing.
Yeah, so cool.
It is cool.
So cool. Yeah. And it's, it's amazing to continually be able to share this and like just see how you as a human start to remember that. Right? And it's
awesome.
It's like this remembering of what you already know, but it takes a little bit like a bit of unlocking things. It's like creativity, it's like everything. Yeah.
Fully.
So it's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel grateful to be able to share it.
That's really
Because
nice.
yeah.
That's
so-
how I feel with people as well. Whenever
Yeah.
I'm like helping them connect back in with themselves in my corner of the world and what I'm doing, like whenever someone tells me like their experience of that, or like, oh my God, I've finally been able to connect with my like higher self, and they don't feel so lost anymore. And
Yeah,
they're like,
cool.
I know who I am, I know what I'm doing, like all of that. I'm just like, oh my God, yay. And
So
then,
good.
Yeah, I get this. It's gratitude.
Yeah, yeah, and then a sense of fulfillment that you're sharing your gift and your experience out of purity, and you're fulfilling the soul's journey, infinite journey,
Yeah,
which is such a beautiful experience.
that is so nice.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I don't think so. I feel like
Feeling done?
Yeah, I feel we've explored some beautiful avenues. Yeah,
That was
yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
Tell people where to find you.
Where you can find me, you can find me at Native State in Kira. Take classes, teach clients, and we have a range of workshops that go into wellness across the board, from spirituality to movement to posture to breath, the bathhouse, etc. You can also find me on my Instagram.
What's your handle?
My handle is Jordan Cousins, but with a double N.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll put it
Look
in
for a
the show
little
notes.
orange profile pic.
Cool.
And yeah,
That's it.
that's me.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I want to come into Native State one day.
Yeah, come in and
sounds
try it.
amazing.
Yeah,
Hell
come
yeah.
for a class, or we have a really beautiful combo class that I teach on Wednesday and Friday nights, where it's a line of balance where you go into different postures, and we really search for like a postural breathwork position, so you're opening up the breath and the posture, and then we follow that with breathwork and meditation and visualization. So it's like you're centering and opening up the channel, and then we start to experience and explore that channel in the breathwork.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I want to do that.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Well, thank you.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
So good.
Do it again one time.
Yeah, cool.
Bye, everyone. Also, if you can hear the rain in the background, that's rain.
Yeah.